Hello, BookTube, it's Louise, the big head bookworm. Lovely to see you. Hope you're well. Hope you're having a good day, wherever it is you are, and whatever it is you're doing. How the dickens are you? Are you enjoying exceptional seasonal weather wherever you are? We are currently having a heat wave, a tropical heat wave. Yes, I can whip out a tune from the 1940s. It was a skill of my dad's, and I have inherited. Who knew that was something you could have in your genetics? I don't think it is. But I grew up with my father whipping out a song from the 1940s, 50s, 60s, and I have kept up the tradition much to my son's horror. Having a heat wave. It is warm. We've just come back from holiday, hence my glow. Yes, we went down to the southwest, we went down to Cornwall. It was mainly bathed in sunshine. We didn't have wall-to-wall sunshine like they are having this week, which wasn't bad because it gave us the time to go and do other things as well as be on the beach or go swimming in the sea, and it was lovely, and that gave me some time to do some reading. So I've got some books that I can talk about, which is lovely. So we're having a good time with weather-wise. Had an exceptional drying day the other day where I nearly got 4 loads done in one day. Didn't put the last load out because I was just a little bit concerned. They were whipped out the next morning, dry as a bone within an hour. So I'm currently looking at my whites, which are hanging on the line. Amazingly, I was watching something the other day, and she said that she didn't bother separating her colours from her whites. Stands back in amazement. What? Is that even a thing? I mean, I know most clothes are colour fast, but even to keep your whites white, surely you separate your whites from your colours. What is this? What is this newfangled nonsense I hear? No, I was brought up to believe that you should always separate, and I am sticking to that, no matter what. No matter what, dear friends. So yeah, lovely to see you. Let me talk about some books, shall I? So, before I start, if you hear any banging and crashing or music from upstairs, it is because the lad's on holiday at the moment, and he's upstairs, and he's taken to playing his music loudly. It's actually quite a good song he's playing at the moment. I don't know whether you'll be able to hear it. I can just hear it in the distance, and I'm not sure the microphone will catch it. But anyway, here's the first book. I think I read this before I went away. Agatha Christie's At Bertram's Hotel. It was part of the Read Christie 2022. It's a good marple. It's got a good amount of marple in this. The murder actually comes late, but there is much more of a mystery that's surrounding it at the moment, surrounding the book. And so I liked it. In the adaptations that are on the televisuals, they tend to move the murder, or they kind of centre the mystery on the murder, and so that truncates some of it, and they kind of move stuff about. Whereas this is much more organised crime kind of murder mystery, which I thought was interesting. I also liked the police person that was in this as well. So yeah, altogether, really liked it. Read it before, of course, but I enjoyed reading it again, and I do recommend it for a marple because it is get a good amount of marple for your money. First book that I read on my holiday was on the old Kindle. Well, that's not what I wanted it to. I had it all set up, and it's now just not gone. Here we are. Abandoned in Death by J.D. Robb. That is a pseudonym for Nora Roberts, who has written so many books, and quite often they does actually say Nora Roberts writing as J.D. Robb. So this is an Eve Dallas thriller, murder mystery. It's set in New York in 2065, so it's that little bit in the future. So there's that kind of make-believe as to what's coming up. So it's kind of like, it's kind of 40 years in the future, and it's an imagining all the other stuff, the kind of the technology, how it would have advanced. So it's kind of slightly futuristic murder mysteries. This is like number 54, 55 in the series. I think it's the latest one that I could get on the Kindle. I have read all of them. up to this point. I think there's one, either it's just due to come out next month or comes out in February, because she tends to at least one a year. They can be a bit samey because after 54, how much, and it's done so that it is sequential, and so she does refer to past cases. Very fast paced, but I mean, some of them are better than the others, and it depends on how much you like the community of characters that have built up around those 54, because it's not just Eve Dallas, who is the Lieutenant Eve Dallas in Homicide. It's her sidekick, it's the other detectives, it's her husband, it's all of that. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was a good one. I don't think it's one of the best. The previous one to this was Forgotten in Death, and I think that was a better one. But this was a good holiday read. It got me in the mood for reading. It got me going. I read it in about a day. Perfect. If you are going to start with these, it's over there. I've got a shelf with, well, 2 shelves actually with all of them on, apart from some of the larger format ones. And it's Naked in Death is the first one. So give that a go and see whether you like it. I think they're great. The second book that I read on holiday was Live and Let Die by Mr. Ian Fleming. Now, if you've been here for a while, and it will have been a while, I really like James Bond, and I really like James Bond novels. I like the vintage editions of James Bond. I like the Red Spine. I've got, this will be my 3rd or 4th Red Spine one. I do actually have some of the others from a different collection, which I picked up for £1 somewhere. They're down there. Here we are. I can now see them. So yes, so I've got a couple, and I've also got 2 others in, 3 others in different formats, but I do like the vintage Red Spined collection. I've got Casino Royale, and I've got Moonraker, and then I've got Live and Let Die. Live and Let Die is second. So I've actually read them slightly out of order, because it's Casino Royale, then Live and Let Die, and then Moonraker. Moonraker, I think, was one of my favourite books because of how different it is from the films, as is this. It's how different they are from the films. So, I've never heard of Ian Fleming. He's the author behind James Bond, that everybody knows the film from. These were written. So Ian Fleming was in the sea, quit naval intelligence in 1945. He had a plan to write a spy story to beat all spy stories. And so the world got the hero it had been waiting for, James Bond. So he has, and it's Commander James Bond. So he's kind of from the Navy industry. So I got all excited because I'm talking about James Bond. So I read Moonraker because I found it in a charity shop, and I just loved it. I loved the attention to detail that Ian Fleming brings to the story. So I knew it from the films. I've watched the films hundreds of times. I mean, I am a huge Bond fan, full stop. But I just loved I can understand why these have, sold so many, because it's the attention to detail, it's the way that things are described, it's the coolness of the characters. James Bond is a ruthless, cold spy. That's who he is. He isn't warm-hearted. He doesn't do it for the good of the people around him. He's hired to do what he does. He has a strong patriotism, and he has a love for the country. He admires people, and he has affection for people. But he is very cold-hearted, and he was brought up. The backstory is what you know it is. He is a cool character, but it's the sense of place and the detail, and you get the feeling that Ian Fleming is writing from what he knows. There's an element of he knew a very similar character to James Bond. That's how I feel. I haven't read any biographies of Ian Fleming, and maybe I should do. But yeah, or maybe that would disturb. Maybe I should just keep my idea going. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. So I've read quite a few of them, and some are better than the others. Casino Royale I thought was brilliant. Moonraker I thought was brilliant. Live and Let Die, also fabulous. It isn't the story that you know. There is a cold-hearted violence. The violence in these, and they are violent, is shocking. In the films, there is a lot of violence, and actually a lot of it is kind of pantomime, is kind of over the top, but it's kind of, there's no real. They've started in some of the Daniel Craig ones to you actually get a sense of the kind of the pain and the hurt. You get them from the books. The violence is shocking and awful and so impactful. You can't skip it. It's there, it's tangible, the sense of threat and what could happen to somebody. Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I was surprised with it. So with this one, they do actually put a bit of a kind of it's not a trigger warning, but it is a kind of like there's awareness of it. The fact that it is talking about a Harlem gangster who's also a secret agent, which is Mr. Big, which from the films from Live and Let Die you would know who he is, and there is that kind of voodoo element, and so there is that sense of that place. So he's a black African man and African American or Caribbean American. He is, I think, so he is that, and they don't use the N-word, but they do use another word, and it is consistently throughout. And I did take a little bit of time to get used to that, because I don't read books where it does have the 1950s sensibility, and it has the 1950s sensibility about men and women. So there is casual sexism and casual misogyny, I have to say, but there is also the terminologies are there. And so that people might find it upsetting, and I completely understand if you choose not to read them because of that. And Moonraker and Casino Royale I don't think had that, but this one definitely does. They talk about it in the introduction, whether the fact that they have chosen to keep it because it is so much of its time, and it's also reading it, you are aware of that, and it challenges your own thinking, which I think is good. So that was interesting. That was an interesting part of the book as well. But I really enjoyed it, and I found it brutal and fascinating, and it's just such a good spy thriller. If you haven't tried an Ian Fleming, you like a spy thriller, you like a good thriller. Oh, so good. And dare I say it, better than the films. I know. And if you know how much I like James Bond, that is a surprise. I then picked up this. So I was given this for Christmas. It was on my wish list. It's The Electricity of Every Living Thing, A Woman's Walk in the Wild to Find Her Way Home by Katherine May. And it is about this lady who set out to walk the 630-mile southwest coast path. So now you see why I chose to read it when we were down in Cornwall, because I thought this is fabulous. So this is a lady, and it sets it off from the beginning, from the introduction, where she's driving a car. She hears an interview on the radio, and it's somebody talking about how they navigate the world with ADHD, and the kind of how the difference is when you're neurodiverse rather than neurotypical. And it was kind of talking about that, and listening to it, she suddenly thought, oh, that's not weird, that's not the way, that's exactly how we are. And she unconsciously was identifying with the lady who was with ADHD, and it felt like she was describing herself, and it never occurred to her to that point that she might have ADHD or Asperger's, which is what she feels that she has. And it talks about her looking for a diet to see whether she actually has Asperger's, and whether that explains who she is and how she navigates the world, and some of the ways that she's felt different, or ways that she felt that she had to have coping strategies for everything, because it didn't go easy to her. So living the way that everybody else lived, she couldn't understand it, so she had to do coping strategies that other people didn't seem to have to do, and they had tremendous impacts on her because she was masking all the time. So I thought it was fascinating. That's not so. I was interested in that. I had read a review about it that talked about how lovely it was, how interesting this was, as looking for somebody who's looking to see whether they would be identified as somebody with ADHD or on the autistic spectrum. And they talk about living with autism rather than being autistic, and it's kind of navigating that. So I thought that was fascinating. That was interesting. Always interested in kind of psychology and different ways that the mind works. I heard that it was very good for that. And also, I love a book where people go walking, especially around the Southwest Coast Path, because it's an area that I know well. They talk about places that I know. So I know Devon very well. I know bits of Somerset quite well. I know Dorset, and I know Cornwall quite well. So it's wonderful when they talk about places that I've been and I can kind of associate with it. So I liked The Salt Path by Ray Wynn, and various other books that I've read about kind of people going on walks or so I like those books. And then it had the double interest in the fact that she was talking about being neurodiverse and looking at that. So that was great. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I did wonder whether I would get annoyed, or I would not be able to understand it, or I'd not be able to empathise with her, or I'd not be able to not feel what she's feeling, but kind of, because she lives the world in a different way, would I be able to kind of connect with that? But I did. I really did. Not in the sense that I feel that I am on the ADHD spectrum, autistic spectrum at all. It was just interesting having somebody really dig down into the idea of coping and what we do to cope, and the strategies that she had to put in place, and how that impacted her, and how getting the diagnosis, well, I won't say what the diagnosis is, but getting that and the journey it took, and how it affected who she felt, and also how she understood herself and how other people understood her, and maybe it challenged who they were. So that was fascinating. It also made her look at her son. She's got a young son, and it made her look at him and not try and look for a diagnosis for him, but also kind of, there was kind of, maybe there are some traits in him, or maybe there aren't, or this kind of stuff. So I really like that. The whole business about the walk as well was fascinating, and I'll let you find out whether she completes it or not, or what kind of walks. I mean, I just love a book when somebody goes for walks around coastlines. It's niche, but I do really like them. So I really recommend this. I really enjoyed it. Her looking into herself. I suppose it is a kind of self-discovery book, and they are much of a muchness in some ways, but it was a good one. She's got a really brilliant way of writing that drew me in, and I found myself thinking about her an awful lot, and the story. She's got a second book, which actually I think I put on my wish list before I put on this one, and thankfully Benedict, who got me this book, not the other one, and it's called Wintering, and so I'm going to try and get that for next month. I might have a read about that, which is kind of her second non-fiction book. She has also written fiction, I believe, but this was her first book, and yeah, really fascinating. I really rated it. So yeah, that's it. So I read that when I was down Cornwall, about Cornwall. It's bit meta, isn't it? I listened on audio to Patricia Wentworth's Grey Mask because I could. This was cheap on Audible, so it was £3. I had it, as you can see, as a book I could have read with my eyes, but I decided to read it with my ears, and it was great. I can't remember what else I read. I listened to when I was down in Cornwall. Was it another Patricia Cornwall, or was it something else? I can't remember. I do love my audiobooks. They're just kind of, I can get clean and just faffle about when I'm listening to them. Driving as well, driving to and from work, because it's half an hour minimum to and from work, so I can do an hour a day just listening to my audiobooks. Although I do listen to podcasts as well, I'm really into my audiobooks at the moment. This is the first Patricia Wentworth. It's a cosy crime. It's a silver mystery. This is a mystery, not a murder mystery. This is literally a mystery. Oh, it's good. It's a really good one. I loved the main two characters. As with a lot of Patricia Wentworth, there is a kind of a romance that goes along as well. This is about a chap who was jilted a week before he got married. He then went and kind of hoofed himself off around the world and became an explorer. Had the money to do it. Came back when his father died and he inherited the house. Came back 6 months later and things happened. And Margaret was the lady who jilted him, and Charles was the man who went off. And those characters and their interactions was great. I really liked it. They are clean romances. Had a good bit of tension towards the end. It introduces Miss Silver because, of course, it's the first one. Yeah, really liked it. Really rate it. If you like cosy crime, if you like cosy mysteries, then please try Patricia Wentworth. I feel like I am here to ring the bell for her. First published in 1928. It's nearly 100 years old, and it's great. So I've been trying to read this for about 4 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. So I bought these two books on a whim at the supermarket because they were reduced, and I could buy them together as a kind of a. I can't remember if it was 2 for £8. That sounds about right. Two for £8, £4 each. Go for it. And I mean, there should be like nearly £8.99, £9.99 if I want to pay full price. I really like Val McDermid. This is called The Grave Tattoo. It isn't part of her series, so it's not one of her. She has various kind of mysteries. So Tony Hill and Carol Jordan, Karen Priory, Kate Braganon, Lindsay Gordon. This is a standalone. It's called The Grave Tattoo. It is set in multiple places, but mainly that a skeleton is found and a body surfaces in a bog. The victim's tattoo suggests it could be Fletcher Christian, the infamous mutineer of HMS Bounty, but is there more here than meets the eye? And the whole thing about William Wordsworth and kind of modern historians and this kind of stuff, and there's a mystery. I got to page 77 and it's taken me 3-4 weeks to get to that point. One of the problems is that I don't like the characters. So I don't want to spend time with them because I don't like the characters. The mystery, and it's 550 pages. So that's a long time for people to spend with people, and I don't really want to spend time with them. It's also got a host of characters and he's flitting in between them. And I read very quickly, and so when they flit in between a lot of characters, I'm barely with anybody to even start disliking them because it's always moving on to the next thing, and I don't get a sense of anybody. I just that's how it feels when I'm reading it. It's like so I'm not loving it. So I kind of put that aside, and I might come back to it. I might not come back to it. It might leave me. So whilst I am interested in reading it, I'm not loving it, and I'm not going to be reading stuff that I'm not loving at the moment. Similarly, didn't do well on that day. Billy Summers, Stephen King. love Stephen King. Love, you know, there are some that I like better than others. There's some that I wouldn't read again. There's some that I would quite happily reread. Some that I think are now a bit dodgy. Looking at you, It. If you've read it, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. This is The Perfect Crime Doesn't Exist. The Perfect Getaway. That's another story. So Billy Summers is a killer for hire. He's among the best snipers in the world, a decorated Iraq war vet who can blend into any neighbourhood and disappear after the shot is taken. And he's being hired again. He'll only agree to contract if the target is truly a bad guy. So he's kind of like that kind of hero, anti-hero thing. It's written as though it was done in the 1940s, but it is modern. It is actually set in the now. It's quite weird because it is written as though it has that kind of air of a 1940s, 50s, and the way he's kind of talking about people, but it is now. It's a modern story. I got to page... Oh no, I'll pass that one. Page 17. Yeah. I think I'm about page 60 and I just am not picking it up. I'm doing everything other than pick it up. You know, and that's not a good sign. So I'm very tempted to put that down and come back to it another time and be more dedicated with reading it. I'm even less inclined to read that. But this, I wouldn't mind giving it a go, but I'm not there with it yet. It's not, you know, yeah. You know that feeling where you're not, you know what I'm talking about. So I might put it down and find something that I actually am enjoying more. Because I could just, you know, I did so well with those books. I enjoyed all of them so much that then when I've come across one that I've gone, I'm not in the mood for it. So I might put it down, might put it back on the shelf and pick up something else. So these two, I'm not loving. These, with my Kindle as well. Well, great. So 5 really good ones, 2 not so good ones. That's not bad. Not a bad response, I suppose. But yeah, there we go. There we go, BookTube. Hope you're well. I did get a few people that said, "Oh yeah, quite like to read the Regeneration trilogy. I haven't yet read the Women of Troy, which I have got to read. Maybe I'll pick that up next. Maybe not. I have to go and have a look at my bookshelf and see what I'm in the mood for. I don't know. Yes, so I am going to do that. So that will probably be September, October. I will say when I'm going to read the Regeneration trilogy and read one in 1 month and then second in the second month, and we'll do it like that. So we'll read over 3 months and you are welcome to read along with me and we can talk about it either here or on Instagram. So I'll post it on Instagram as well. But I need to get my copies and I'm going to try and get, not a binder, but I'm going to try and get 3 that are in a you know, that all match. Because that's what I do. So yeah, well, BookTube, this has been lovely. I hope you've been well. And yeah, this has been great. Let's do this again sometime. Bye.